I hear that you're thinking about moving to Mississauga, Canada. Well, hold on, because I'm going to share in this video the top 10 negatives that you need to know about, because if you can't handle these, you may not want to move to Mississauga. And this is really important when you make the decision of moving anywhere. You want to, of course, know all of the positives which are out there, but can you handle the negatives? And we're going to jump into that right now. Let's get started. Hey, what's up everyone? My name is Nasira Jamal and I'm a local realtor right here in the Greater Toronto area with the Canada Realty Group. If this is your first time to the channel and you want to learn everything there is to know about living, working, playing, eating, sleeping, and even the negatives of moving into the Mississauga area, then make sure you hit the subscribe button and turn your notification on so that you get notified every time I upload a new video. Honestly, I get calls every day from people who are moving here, relocating here, and I absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about moving here, relocating, or maybe you're just coming to check it out, make sure you give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. You can even send that pigeon carrier. However you want to get a hold of me, days, nights, weekends, evenings, I've got your back when you're moving into the Greater Toronto area. Okay, so you're thinking about moving to the Mississauga area. In today's video, we're going to talk about the top 10 negatives that my clients have told me over the years. And once you know these, you may actually change your mind about moving here, because if you can't handle these, then maybe Mississauga isn't right for you. And we're going to jump into the first thing right away. However, just note, I am going to be discussing 10 negatives. The last one is the most surprising, most probably one of the things that you should really know about, and something that can affect your health. So let's get started with number one. The first thing we want to talk about is taxes. Now, of course, living in Ontario, living in Canada, we are highly taxed. There are many reasons for that, but really when you think about your taxing, your personal taxes, as well as just your property taxes living here, we want to talk about what the harmonized sales tax is. Really, we're probably one of the most taxed province in Canada. We have our HST, which is our harmonized sales tax, at 13%. And this is really on everything. Your food is a little bit less, so you do have GST on certain things that is less. But overall, you're going to pay 13% on most everything when you're buying. So when you buy something for $1, it's going to cost you $1.13. And if you're coming from, different countries, this tax may not be something you're used to, or at least the percentage. And I find, that's something that you have to consider, because that really plays into your cost of living when you have a 13% harmonized sales tax, right? Reason number two. Well, as we're talking about costs, let's talk about insurance. You're probably going to find that car insurance and home insurance is pretty high in Mississauga. And this is, again, part of cost of living. But if you want to ensure that you can afford living here, you want to check out the insurance, especially if you're a driver, because the car insurance is going to cost a pretty penny. And this is, the rates are higher. It's a big metropolitan city. There's a lot of people. There are a lot of accidents. There are a lot of things going on which really hike up our rates. But car insurance and car maintenance can really run you into a lot of costs when you're moving into the Mississauga area. And for a lot of my clients, they have actually opted to using public transportation and using the car less. And the minimum car insurance that really you require is $1 million liability. So again, it's a high premium. For me, as a business owner, as a realtor who's driving around, actually I have $2 million coverage, and the premium is pretty high. So that is, again, something you have to consider if you're going to come here and you're going to have a vehicle. These are costs that are going to be into your monthly costs, and so it'll be a huge part of your budget. Reason number 3. So you hear that there are a lot of jobs in Mississauga, and I have talked about this, that there are a lot of jobs, But the problem is getting those jobs, right? You really have to do a lot of networking. You got to know somebody perhaps in a company you're trying to get to. The competition is really high in terms of getting jobs in the technology field, in the finance field, in the healthcare field. Though there are a lot of jobs, I mean, that's something that you can be rest assured, but getting that job may be more difficult than you think, and you want to do your legwork before, because it's not just going to be, easy in the sense you get here and you get a job, especially if it's in a highly competitive field. So even though there are a lot of jobs here, I have so many people telling me, once they've moved here, that they've had a hard time. It's taken a couple of my clients like 3 months, 6 months, almost a year to secure a good job. And again, this is something that you're going to have to contend with when you get here. If you're doing any kind of technical work, the competition is really, really fierce. Reason number 4. Okay, so if you don't like crowds, if you don't like a lot of people, then Mississauga may not be for you. I've lived here for, in the Greater Toronto area for over 40 years, and I have noticed that Mississauga has grown so much, so many people, so many immigrants coming. There's over 700,000 people living already in Mississauga, and it's growing every single day, that it really brings in the crowds. There's lots of crowds. There's lots of lineups, whether you're going grocery shopping, whether you're going to any of the festivals, whether you're, waiting for the bus. There's just a lot of people that you're going to find, even when you go shopping. Like one of my favorite malls is actually Square One, but when I go shopping there, sometimes I actually will leave and then find a weekday that might be less busier, because I don't like a lot of crowds. I don't like waiting in line. I don't like that whole, idea of bumping into people. And although right now we're in COVID and the malls are closed, that's not, the typical situation. When you're going into the malls, there's a lot of stores, especially Square One or the area of Square One. There's a lot of people that work there. There's a lot of people who come from other areas, other neighboring towns and cities. And you just find that sometimes you just want a cool spot for yourself where there's not going to be so many people around you. Well, Mississauga is crowded, and that is one of the things, a downfall, I think, of moving into a large city like Mississauga, is that there's just a lot of people, and there's a lot of cars, and there's a lot of things going on. So, you'd have to consider if maybe you like more of the smaller town feel where there's less people. Mississauga is busy, busy, busy. Okay, so we talked about cars. So maybe you're thinking, well, I'll go to Mississauga and use the public transportation. Well, just one moment here, because the public transportation in Mississauga, based on the numbers of people using it, is also very fierce. So what do I mean by that? Well, for one thing, Mississauga does not have a subway line. So, you're using busing, your normal busing. They do have My Way busing, but it is busy, and you're going to have a lot of changes in bus routes depending on where you're going. If you're trying to go from Mississauga to Brampton or Mississauga to Toronto, you're not just going to likely have a direct line unless you're using the GO train to go into Toronto. But in terms of just traveling around the city, Mississauga Transit, though they do go into the different areas and neighborhoods, you may be hopping a lot of different buses, and it's going to really take up a lot more time. And there's breakdowns to consider as well because of our inclement weather, different things going on. You sometimes find bus routes or buses canceled. And so this is part of the headache, of moving around the city. And I have a lot of clients that do use public transportation. And sometimes getting into work can be 2 hours, 2.5 hours, just because either there was a transportation issue like a breakdown of a bus, or there's weather, situations that are coming up. And people are feeling that sort of stress. I think the stress that comes with navigating the transit system or moving around the city can play a havoc on your health. And so you may want to consider if Mississauga is right for you or not. if transportation is something that you're going to be using, whether it's cars or the local public transportation, it may really be very, very difficult if you can't handle the amount of traffic congestion, all of the things that come with public transportation or using a vehicle. Okay, number 6. We talked about this in the beginning in terms of cost of living, but I just want to generally say that when you're moving into a large city, you're going to have a higher cost of living. Everything from food, transportation, entertainment, whatever you're doing, it's going to cost more when you're living in a larger city. And that is, again, when you're coming to Mississauga and you're thinking, well, what kind of lifestyle am I going to have? You have to consider this. And depending on the job that you have, you may want to look at it and say, is it going to be budget friendly? Are you going to still maintain that quality of life that you want to create or already have created somewhere and you're bringing it here? Is it going to be affordable? You see, living here for so long, I've kind of been able to move around the different cities, and I've just noticed that the larger metropolitan areas like Mississauga are expensive. Yes, there's more choice. I have to say that you do get choices, but affordability is going to be something that you're going to have to look at before moving here, because you don't want to come to a place and find that it's just way too expensive and you can't really maintain that quality of life. And so really consider all of the things that you love doing, the things that you must have. There's obviously, things that all of us have that are non-negotiables on our lists. Make sure that you can quantify it with a budgetary number, because otherwise it's going to be really a sticker shocker for you. It's going to be extremely expensive, and you may actually regret the move after the fact, which of course is more difficult. Once you know the cost of living portions of the lifestyle you're creating, then you're going to be able to make that decision. But it may not be for you if you're trying to downsize a little bit on your costs, but still have that higher quality of life. Mississauga may not be the right place for you. Oh my gosh, this one is reason number 7, and it doesn't end. Construction is one of my biggest pet peeves. Wherever I'm traveling in Mississauga, you will find there's road constructions, highway construction, water main pipes that they're fixing, potholes that are being redone. It's just a royal mess. So if you can't handle the city under constant construction, Mississauga may not be for you, because it really does play a havoc, especially if you are using your car to, drop the kids off at school, or you're trying to get to work. You are going to maybe be diverted. There's detours on the roads. There's sometimes what happens is roads are completely shut down. There could be accidents, which also play a havoc in a construction area where maybe somebody hasn't followed the rules. You'll see signs that'll say road closed, detour, follow the detour signs. But it is a mess, and it's a city that I find that's constantly under that yellow construction tape, because different areas are getting different projects. If you look up, I'll put a link in where you can actually monitor where the construction projects are and when they're scheduled to start, when they're scheduled to finish. And I'll tell you something here. Even though they're scheduled to finish by a certain date, usually we find that there's a delay because we've run into inclement weather or something's gone on with funding. But really, oh my gosh, this is a big one for me because I do travel a lot. I drive around everywhere, and the construction will get to me more than anything else. So be aware of that. And if you don't like construction, you don't like waiting around, you don't like adding to your travel time, Mississauga may not be right for you because there's a lot of things going on that involve construction here. Reason number 8. Okay, so we've talked about cars and transportation and construction. Well, if you don't like commuting, especially if you work in Toronto and you don't like the commute or the length of commute, Mississauga isn't for you. You see, you can get into Toronto, using different modes of transportation, GO trains, buses, Ubers, personal cars, carpooling. It's just commuting, and it takes time, right? There's a lot of people, as I mentioned, that live in Mississauga, And if you're not the commuter type and you kind of want to work and be in an area that's very close, everything is close. Mississauga is a big, large city. Even just getting to the grocery store may take you 10 minutes depending on where you're living. So imagine if you don't like commuting to work daily, then you may want to reconsider. You may want to really look at where can you live where you're closer to work, because the commute is not pretty. And put weather on top of that, and I know I've talked about this in my other videos. Our weather, our snow, our winters are long. 6-7 months of inclement, or not inclement weather, but just not nice weather, which plays a havoc. If it rains, somehow our roads get more cluttered. It doesn't have to be snow. There's more accidents, there's more people on the road, there's just a lot of havoc. And so if you're a commuter, or if you don't like to commute to work and you're not a commuter, then maybe reconsider Mississauga, because it isn't a place where you will enjoy living. Okay, so if you're liking this video, and before I get to the 9th reason, go ahead and give me a thumbs up or a like on the video, because it helps me get the video out to more people who are considering moving to the Mississauga area, and this video will help them decide if it is right for them. So go ahead now and click that like button. Let me get to number 9 now. This is a problem in all major cities. However, Mississauga has a problem in itself in terms of the air pollution, the air quality, and the air quality index. As I checked it today at the time of this video, was actually 59, and what the range is typically you want to be in the lower numbers. Anything over 50 and you're pretty much not having the greatest air quality. So if you've got issues like breathing issues or asthma or anything like that, Mississauga may not be right for you, because the air quality isn't the greatest. Now there are days where the number is a little bit lower, and you'll find that it fluctuates like it does in most areas depending on a lot of different things, but the air quality is moderate to low. And this is something that you have to consider, for one, for health reasons, for two, if you have kids, right? You want to be able to give them somewhere where maybe the air quality doesn't fluctuate as much, and maybe it fluctuates enough that it still stays in the lower number longer than it does in the higher numbers. So air quality is a big one. Pollution is a big one. If you are looking at moving to Mississauga, then this is something you're going to have to contend with. And if there are reasons where you feel like, oh my gosh, this is going to affect my health. I know when I go into Mississauga, or when I'm there for longer periods of time, especially in the summer, I do get to experience more of my allergies. I, get the headaches that I get when I'm breathing in different, different air particles and things like that. It's not fun. So again, it does depend on your tolerance, but air quality and pollution in a large city, especially a city that's growing like Mississauga, is something to be considered, and you may want to look at it prior to making the decision to move to the Mississauga area. And then finally, not least but last, is number 10, which is really something that's come up more so now, and it's one of the reasons I actually moved out of the more of the larger areas, like Brampton, Mississauga, is light pollution. So if you're thinking like in the nighttime, if you're out and you're gonna look up into the sky and think you're gonna just see a starry night, I don't want to be bearer of bad news, but you are not going to find too many stars up in the sky that you can see. And this is an ongoing problem where we have so much light pollution because of the number of buildings, cars, all of the artificial lights that are on, that really take away from the night sky, the natural darkness of the sky. If you want to go and watch or go look at stars, people travel a couple of hours out of the city boundaries to even go and see the stars in the sky. And for me, this was one of the decisions I had to make, because I wanted to be able to stargaze. And not that that was the main or the only reason, but it was definitely one of the top deciding factors of why I didn't choose to live in a bigger or move out of a metropolitan area, is I really wanted to get back to that place where I could look up into the sky and see the stars. And gaze at them for a long, long time without any disruption, because some nights, if it's clear, you may be able to catch a few stars in the sky in Mississauga, but you're not going to find a night where you will have a sky only full of stars. And this is really something that when I did some research on it, I found out that light pollution affects your health greatly. And for people that have health issues, you don't want to accentuate it more by being in an area where you have light pollution. And, for me, this living here, of course, there's a lot of positives, but these are the negatives that you have to consider prior to making that move, prior to making a decision. In Mississauga, because like I said, it's growing so much and so quickly, with the numbers of people and the numbers of cars coming into the city, you have to really look at all of the angles if it's going to fit your lifestyle or your family's lifestyle. And if you're thinking about moving here, maybe you've thought about it, or this is one of the shortlisted areas. You want to go see some homes, you want to go see some neighborhoods, maybe you want to come visit our nights in the evening and see what the night sky looks like, then give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. You can even send that pigeon carrier. Days, nights, evenings, weekends, doesn't matter. I've got your back when you are moving into the Mississauga area, the Greater Toronto area. Give me a call. I'm going to ensure that you get the information and that you are going to be able to make the decision that's right for you and your family. Until the next video, I'll catch you later.